Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and are having a flare-free day. Thanks so much for coming back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Em and I'm an endometriosis advocate here in Canada. And everything on this channel is related to living life with a chronic illness, as well as a little bit about my own pregnancy journey while living with endo. In today's video, I wanted to talk about ways to talk to your partner about endometriosis more specifically. But if you're living with PCOS, adenomyosis, or any other chronic condition, I feel like these tips and tricks can really help and be applied to any other chronic illness and condition. So if that interests you, then please keep on watching. I think a lot of times when it comes to living with a chronic condition, we hold it in and are kind of scared to share our experiences at first. And I think this is just for me, or it could be for you as well, but I didn't want to dive into my chronic condition with somebody because I didn't know a lot about it, number one. Number two, I was a bit in denial when I first had my diagnosis confirmed. And I just was scared of what others would think if I came out saying, I live with this chronic condition or this disease, and I just don't know how they're going to take it, especially in the dating scene or in the partnership realm. I just didn't want to put a stigma on me at the first kind of date or out the gate, I guess. If you're in the same position, I understand how vulnerable and how scary it can be to be open about what you live with, which is a chronic condition or an illness. And especially with endometriosis, there are so many taboo stigmas and topics related to endo, such as painful periods or, discussing your menstrual cycle in general and how it can be painful every month, that you may not want to bring that up before the appetizers arrive at your table, let's just say. But it is an important discussion to have with your partner because it just outlines why it's important to you, how it impacts your life, how you may need a partner to be there for you when you need them the most. And it kind of gives a light into if that partner is going to be the right fit for you, because this is a lifelong condition. So if you're in this spot or going with this journey of trying to decide if I should tell the person or not, or be open about my experiences with the illness, just know that I'm proud of you, and it can be a very vulnerable space. So I hope you give yourself some grace and compassion because it's not easy. But here are some tips and tricks that I have walked through with my own self that may help you in kind of talking about it with your partner to make it a little bit easier on ourselves and to provide that space that's needed for a serious conversation. My number one tip is to learn about the illness to become an expert in it. When it comes to endometriosis or any other chronic condition that you have, I feel like when I was first diagnosed, I didn't know anything about it and I couldn't answer any questions about it because I was like, I've never heard about this thing before. I have no idea how long I'll have it, how it impacts me, all of the nuanced details. And I felt lost and confused. And I'm sure that you felt the same. But the more we were in our journey and the more we dove deep into research and knowledge around it, I, for myself, felt more confident in myself and my abilities to answer questions about it and to feel like an expert about my own body and how it's being impacted by this foreign thing that I didn't know much about before. When you're talking to your partner or your love interest or whoever it may be, and you just don't know where to start, I feel like it's just so important to start by researching and really diving deep into the illness so that you can answer questions that they may have. And typically when these conversations happen, they will probably have questions about, oh, what is that illness? I've never heard of it. What does it do? How does it impact you? Having those answers can really make you feel confident in a very vulnerable discussion at times. Understanding more about the illness, specifically endometriosis for me and potentially you, can really help you feel confident. And I think it's a great first step in providing that discussion piece. Next piece of advice is to pick a place and time that is free of distractions. The last thing you want when you're discussing this important piece of your life is to be in a busy restaurant that's super loud with other people around you and in an environment where you don't feel like you have the time and space to really delve into details that might be required for this conversation. You want to make sure that with this important conversation about potentially your future and how you move forward together, about pain management and support, that you have the time and space without those distractions that can take you away from important things you want to touch on. Now, this is a really tricky one. The next one is being open and honest. This is not the discussion to sugarcoat things, to hide details. And again, nuance, if this is the first date, you may not want to dive all the details inside if you don't want to. But if this is someone that you're really wanting to move forward with and you have that established, safe relationship with, I think it is so important and so valuable to have an open and honest and frank discussion, because the last thing you want to do is lie to yourself or lie to the other individual saying, oh, I'm fine with that, or sex isn't painful for me, or, my periods aren't that painful that I can actually go on a 10K walk after. Like, you don't want to bring in expectations that cannot be met just to prove something to yourself or to your partner. This is the time to really be open and vulnerable, because again, for endometriosis specifically, I'm really exhausted after a flare-up, and I will not be able to go on a huge hike after, or go out and see friends because I'm just emotionally and mentally drained from that experience. Is that okay with you, or how would we address that together? I think it's so important having those honest and open, frank discussions, because you're bringing in realistic expectations to the relationship, saying this is the reality and how can we work together to kind of move forward and feel confident in our relationship and be a good support system for one another. The next piece of advice is discuss how your illness impacts you personally. I could talk days about endometriosis specifically. I could talk about numbers, I could talk about funding, I could talk about the symptoms that are often presented, where it could be found in the body, but it is so important in these discussions with your partner to dive into how it impacts you personally, because one symptom that might be on Google that says, everyone experiences painful menstrual cycles with endo may not be my experience. It is, but it may not be for me. So it's so important to say, listen, although I said it could impact people this way, I don't really necessarily feel like that with my flare-ups. Don't just provide a blanket statement about the illness. Outline how it impacts you personally. The next one is outline your specific needs. Now, again, this kind of goes into play of how it impacts you personally, but this discussion can happen when you're already in a long-term relationship with somebody, or you've been dating someone for a long time and you're just not getting your needs met, specifically when you have a flare-up, or you don't feel supported when you're in your chronic illness journey itself. For some individuals, you may have had your diagnosis formally provided, and it might be a lot mentally to take on or emotionally, and you need that emotional support network there, and you may not be receiving it. And this is a time where you can be open and honest, saying, hey, like this is a huge weight on my shoulders that has just kind of dropped on me, and I would really love more support from you in this way. I think it's so important to have these discussions because we grow together in relationships. It's not always going to be the same two individuals that met when they were 20 and they're going to be the same people throughout their entire lives. Your needs change, your support network changes, the way support is provided and required changes. So it is so important to have touch bases with your partner to say, listen, are we getting our needs met? Both, am I helping you meet your needs and your goals throughout this relationship? And the same with me, especially when it comes to my illness. Outlining your specific needs, such as a weekly check-in, or if you need more support during a flare-up, can really be beneficial and can honestly feel like you can strengthen that relationship for the better. Finally, I would say it is so important to be open to answer any questions that your partner may have about your chronic illness or the discussion that you just shared with them. I think having a large, vulnerable discussion like how an illness impacts you or what it is can be very heavy at times. And so your partner will probably have questions because, again, not a lot of individuals know about endometriosis specifically. So they might feel very overwhelmed with the information provided because it's something potentially so new to them in their world that they're like, I have no idea what this is. How does it impact us? Or how does it impact you? So it's really important to provide that space following the discussion and even a couple days or weeks after to say, I'm here anytime you need to answer questions that you may have that pop up. I'm going to do my best to research and answer them the best way that I can. And understand that they may need some time to soak in that information, just like ourselves when we got diagnosed. It was a lot. It was like, whoa, like I have no idea what this is, how it impacts me. So just kind of give them grace and compassion towards your partner, because we do understand and we've been through that process of it was a lot to take in and it was a lot to process. So it might be the same, but just be there for them and just say, I'm here if you need to chat through it and we can work through it together. And just know that after any conversation like this, it's important to give yourself that grace and compassion and that time to kind of de-thought, I think is the best way to describe it. Like we're tense, right? We're waiting for that expectation of like, oh, what are they going to say or think or do when I describe this? It can be a very emotionally draining and emotionally driven discussion. So it is okay to take a little mental break the next couple of days after and to do things that help you, because stress can bring on flares as well. So don't stress the next couple of days after. Just be kind to yourself and understand that you're doing the best that you can do to be open and honest to someone that you love and care about and that you want to move forward with. Looking at it that way of you're doing what you can to really strengthen the relationship you have by being open is a blessing, and it's a really beautiful thing to see and witness. So please be proud of yourself, because I know it can be really hard. With that, I hope those tips and tricks have helped. Feel free to add in anything I've missed down below in the comments if you've gone through this process of being open and honest with your partner about your chronic illness. If you provide any comments down below, it could be really helpful for somebody else that tunes into this video and is looking for some advice or some support along their journey as well. With that, I will talk to you on the next one.